This is Paul. There's a word in this dictionary called reciprocity, a relationship between two people, corporations, countries, etc., in which privileges or favored positions granted by one are returned by the other. In other words, reciprocity means I do for you and you do for me. Now, the nice part is the United States has reciprocity agreements with numerous countries. Yes. In some instances, they're treaties. They're written understandings that if you divorce one of my citizens, I will divorce one of your citizens. Yes. Now, I've done a little research on this whole dissolution of marriage. It seems that the United States will have a reciprocal relationship with those that are from Mexico and Canada. Could be a part of the NAFTA agreement. I'm not quite sure. They have reciprocity agreements with certain nations to facilitate certain legal proceedings so that if you were to move to America from Canada or from Mexico and you were married, you could get a dissolution of marriage. Now, there's a legal reason for reciprocity. What you do for Americans in other nations that have reciprocity agreements, those nations would expect that you would do for their citizens. Now, let's say we were married in Kosovo, and our marriage certificate was and is issued from the United Nations. The United Nations is not actually a nation. They are a governmental organization that administers a government when a nation is waiting to form their own government. Right. Now, let's say you decided you were going to dissolve a United Nations marriage certificate, and you made that decision when Heidi filed for dissolution of marriage on May 24th of 2012. Correct. Now, I know that there are those that would say, well, we can do whatever we want in Clallam County. We don't have to have any legal reason for any decision making. Now, when we go through this comment and Superior Court case, May 24th, 2012, okay, petition for dissolution, my response, proposed marrying plan, sheriff's return, so on and so forth, motion for default. Now, on the 27th of August of 2012, Ms. Hodges motioned for default dissolution of marriage. I had included in my documentation the photocopy of the actual marriage certificate from the United Nations. Now, I'm sure that Judge Ken Williams, when he accepted the dissolution, should have required documentation from Ms. Budnek that would have substantiated certain facts about the dissolution of marriage. Number one, when you fill out all of this proposed parenthood child support worksheets, all of this, you should require the actual marriage certificate and proof of identification. I never had seen a copy of Heidi's driver's license or a copy of the actual marriage certificate that was issued from the United Nations when she filed for divorce. Now, I don't know what the judges in Clallam County think about the law, but I am 99% sure, and I'm not an attorney, but I've asked around and I've looked on the internet and I've tried to find out what the law says. Now, when you file for dissolution of marriage and you don't provide any identification and you don't require a signature of anything other than signing the court forms, it could be that the judges never require documentation about what the plaintiff wants. Now, I responded in the 89 days. I told them I didn't want a divorce. I provided documentation for everything that I said. Now, it could be that Clallam County needs to find out what reciprocity is, because I'm almost sure that you can't dissolve a United Nations marriage certificate. As much as you'd like to think that you can dissolve any marriage from any nation of the world. Let's say you're from Slovenia, and you're not actually United Nations. Okay? Now, I have tried to be as clear about these things as possible, that we will have to dissolve the marriage through the United Nations or through the United States State Department. Okay? Now, I have tried to document that when you do anything that involves the law, you have to be 100% sure about what the law actually says. Now, you're going to have to remove the dissolution of marriage, and you're going to have to remove the protection order. Does every judge, commissioner, and sheriff understand? You have to do what the law says.